Díogh Carja, tá mé raisiú le rang nua, so back today with another class, and I'm sure faoin aimse chatte, so about the past tense. So, we previously looked at the present habitual and the future in Irish, and we found that these worked in really the same way. They both had the same system. You added a suffix to the end of the verb, and that turned it into do, Dimitri does talk, Kainchen Dimitri, or Dimitri will talk, Kainch he Dimitri. The past, however, is different. However, it is very easy, but it's different. So for the past, it's really useful for us to know the root form of the verb. So for example, you have kainchi, kainchun, but the root of the verb is kainch. So it's always useful in Irish to know this root. So we just take that root, kainch, C-A-I-N-T, kainch, and to put it into the past, very easy, just add a H. So kainch Dimitri. Dimitri talked. For example, Snov or Dimitri or Adam swam. Snov Adam. Now you can't put any H in here between the S and the N, so it just stays as Snov, exactly the same as the root form. Now when people see this, they often think, but how on earth do you know then that it's past? Well, remember, in the present form, you'd have to have the un. So by virtue of there being no suffix, snovan or snovhi, we know it's past. This is a bit confusing because it's kind of the opposite of English. In English, you have the verb swim and you say I swim, so there's no change. But in the past, you would say, I need a regular verb here, talk, talked. So you're actually adding the suffix, the ed, onto the past form. In Irish, different. Past form is just add the h if you can. So Heinz, Dimitri, and we'll come across some other ones in a few minutes, but I want to just go on to the negative for a second. So normally, up to now, we've always negated our verbs using ni. Ni, Snavin, Adam. Ni, Kainchen, Dimitri. However, in the past in Irish, and I'm only talking here about the regular verbs, so there's 11 irregular verbs in Irish, I'm not including them. When we negate a regular verb in Irish, so the vast majority of them, ni becomes near. So like he is near the shop. So Dimitri didn't talk near Heinz Dimitri. That H still stays in Heinz, near Heinz Dimitri. If you want to turn this into a question, well, previously we were using on. Now on becomes air. So you notice this common thing here with the R's. Ni becomes near, on becomes air. If you see an R, it often indicates the past. So did Dimitri talk? Air Heinz Dimitri. Again, we have the CH. The CH will always be there in Irish, in the past. Air Heinz Dimitri. So Adam didn't swim. Near Snov Adam. Did Adam swim? Air Snov Adam. So again, all the actions happening at the front with near or air. You don't have to worry about moving things around after that. So let's just recap that very quickly. To make the past, we take the root form of the verb, such as kainch, and we simply add a h, kainch. Now, what happens if the verb starts with a vowel? Because you can't add a h to a vowel. So for example, the verb eat, which is I, or listen, which is isht. So here it's a little bit more complicated. We add a d in front of the verb. So I becomes d, d apostrophe, and then I. And isht becomes disht. Now when we go into the negatives, we get rid of that d. So it only stays in the positive. So near I will. Near isht John lekyo. And did John listen to music? Air isht John lekyo. So it's only in the positive form, the affirmative form, that we're using the D. And if you listen to people actually speaking Irish, maybe people in their 50s, 60s, you'll often hear them put the D in front of normal verbs. So they might say, instead of Heinz Dimitri, they might say the Heinz Dimitri or the Snob Adam. So it's kind of a, used to always put the D in there, but it's kind of fallen out with the standardization of Irish. People often say it still, but they never write it anymore. But and you can do it if you want. You can say the Heinz Dimitri the Snob, but in the Chaijon, in the standard, it'll be using a H, using the shevu for the verbs that start with consonants, and using the D apostrophe for verbs that start with vowels. So there's one other caveat here, is verbs that start with F. For example, fawn, to wait. Because when you add a H to an F, well, FH in Irish is just silent. So now fawn becomes on. And that is essentially a verb that starts now with a vowel, which means then we need to apply our rules to it. So what do we do in front of vowels? We add the D. So now it becomes Don. So if you wanted to say Claire waited, Don Claire. So let's do a very quick recap. To make the past form, we're using did here. We simply need to take the root form of the verb, and if it starts with a consonant, we add the shevu. So kainch becomes chainch. If it starts with a vowel, we add a D. So eisht becomes deisht, deisht John. In the negative, we're using near instead of ni. So near eisht John, or near chainch Dimitri. And if we're making it a question, we're using air. So air eisht John, or air chainch Dimitri. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Vermila.